Good evening, one and all. Welcome and thanks a lot for tuning in to Multiply Football, Multiply Sports' very first podcast edition, where we discuss all the latest comings and goings and all the latest happenings in the world of European football. My name is Arun Mulot, and today I'm joined by Multiply Sports' favorite journalist, Jitin Varghese. Hi, Jitin.
Hi Murlot, it's great to be with you.
Pleasure as always, Jitin. How are you doing? What do you see new in the world of football before we get to our topic? Quite an
Yeah,
interesting topic.
yeah. The thing is, the UEFA Nations League are going on. Like I'm a German fan, they are not doing as expected, but it's okay. Other than that, the Premier League is around the corner, and a lot of clubs are making a lot of signings. I think let's see who will lift the trophy at the end of the run. I don't know. I don't think my club will be able to catch up
As
with
a
that.
Liverpool fan, you would obviously be hoping for the defending champions to prosper again. But it's quite possible that there are a host of new competitors out there, right?
Yep, exactly. Like with Chelsea spending big and United spending wise, and City has always spending for defenders again. So I think it will be a very difficult task of maintaining the title run. But let's see how it will turn out. We'll see.
Definitely. And now, without much further ado, we are going to look out to two of the clubs that one wouldn't say are contenders for the Premier League, but at the same time, they are not pushovers, to be honest. Listeners, today we are going to be discussing the comings and goings at two of England's hallowed football clubs, that being Newcastle United and Everton Football Club. And without much further ado, do you want to start off, Jitin? Tell us what you think about Newcastle's up and coming signing for.
Yeah. So Newcastle, like for me personally, like is one of my favorite teams. Not the favorite team, but like everybody will have a second favorite dark horse, right? So I like Newcastle a lot, but I don't approve of Mike Ashley. But the way Newcastle are run, like it's kind of not good, but it's still Newcastle is a good club. So, but the thing is, like what amazed me is that they managed to wrap up some like amazing signings. To be honest, let's take the case of Callum Wilson. Then Callum
Right.
Wilson was something that they were desperate of. So the pair of legs who
Mhm.
can score goals, right? So last season they bought Joelinton for 40 million from Hoffenheim. Total flop, 2 goals. You won't. That's not a Premier League quality, right? 2 goals. So they definitely needed
Definitely not.
someone of Premier League quality, and Callum Wilson fits the bill perfectly. Like we can say that like last season it was not much of a good season for him, but even then, like if you take the all stats, like the
Mhm.
2019 season was really good for him, and then they wrapped up his best buddy also, Ryan Fraser. Like they two had a formidable partnership at Bournemouth. Like that's what kept them in the league for too long, if I must say. And other than that, like that, I think those two will form a formidable partnership at the St. James Park this time. Also, like the clever signing was they managed to sign up Jeff Hendricks on a free.
Uh-huh.
I won't say Jeff Hendricks is a world beater, but it is always good to have some options, right? I don't think he will
Most
directly
definitely.
replace Shelby or Isaac Hayden on the lineup, but even then, he's a good signing by the team. And who else we have? If I'm not wrong, like they will wrap up Jamal Lewis anytime. And like as you know, my club was after him. Like Liverpool
Uh-huh.
was looking at him, but
So,
we couldn't manage to match the price Norwich put on him. Even then, it was really good. It's a really good signing by Newcastle United. Jamal Lewis is definitely a one for the future. And also, if rumors are right, Mulot, I think they are in market for Rob Holding on loan, right? That is also a good
that's
signing.
right.
That's what I understand. What do you think?
Well, Rob Holding definitely he was a great prospect back in Arsenal when he joined, I believe it was 2 to 3 years back.
Yeah.
Obviously, things haven't gone well for him when it comes to the first team footing and also due to injuries. And given Mikel Arteta's potential signings, maybe not signings, but on the other hand, he is probably going for different sort of players. He would
Yeah.
probably be sticking with a set of players who are more experienced or who have more potential. Holding, unfortunately, does not fit the bill there. So obviously, Newcastle would be a good destination for him, provided he manages to stay free of injuries, of course.
Yeah,
And
what position do you predict Newcastle will finish this time around? I predict
that
10.
10th, is it?
Yeah, 10th.
Wow. That's a bit ambitious,
Yeah.
given that, of course, Newcastle have spent well, but I would probably be going for. So I don't see them as relegation candidates whatsoever, and I don't have. Let's say I'm not a very big fan of Steve Bruce, but he did manage to turn his team into a bit more attacking style of play, probably towards the end of the season because there was, of course, that proposed takeover from the Saudi Public Investment Group. So probably he wanted to, make it look like he might be a good prospect to continue with that team. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that didn't happen. What is your opinion? Do you think it would have been good for English football if that takeover had happened?
Yeah, the competition would have been too much immense, but I don't know. I'm kind of neutral on the takeover. I don't want another Manchester City to come and splash money and like ease their way to the top. So I think it's better. Yeah, you can't have a lot of winners in that league, right? Like there should be some mid-table clubs. So I think Newcastle should see the same. I don't want. Yeah, it will be. We'll get a lot of plastic fans and all. The whole picture will change. I don't like that much. I know some genuine Newcastle United fans, but even then, like I am not much of a cash guy. So
I understand. Well, after all, again, Liverpool are not the team that choose to splash the cash unless it's the sort of player who can really make a difference.
yes,
So
exactly.
probably that's the sort of signings that any club would want to, and not the sort of no offense, Man City fans, but you don't want to splash 100 million on two or three fullbacks and probably
Yes,
end up selling your club legends. But yeah,
yes.
back to your question, I
Yeah.
would say Newcastle might finish somewhere between 14 to 16. Sorry, I know there are not many Newcastle fans out there, at least not many listening to our podcast. But at the same time, there is a hardcore fan following, and obviously, St. James Park is one of the most, let's say, one of the most noisy stadiums out there when it's full, which is not the case right now. But there were times when we discussed back in the day when they had those big European nights. Maybe who knows? So maybe I say 14, but they could maybe end up pulling up another Sheffield or even a Leicester, at least finish in the top six, and that's a possibility.
Yes, exactly.
But moving on, so that's about Newcastle. Unless they make any sort of bigger signings in the next few days, I believe Steve Bruce's side have accomplished a solid season last time around, and here is wishing them all the best,
Yes,
Jitin.
yes, exactly.
And without much further ado, again, let's move on to the other club we'll be discussing today. And this is on the other side of the of the Liverpool divide. So we'll be crossing on to their longtime rivals at Goodison Park, Everton Football Club. Before I discuss much further about the signings, Jitin, tell me what is your impression as a Liverpool fan on Everton and their performance over the last season?
uh, like over the last season, I won't call them mouth-watering, but they do look dangerous at times. Actually, like we defeated the first time around, we defeated them 5-2, but the second time it was the first game after the lockdown. Actually, so it ended at 0-0 at
Okay.
uh, at Goodison Park. So I think, yeah, they won't be. I don't think they will be a mouth-watering side. But the thing is, Ancelotti is at the helm, and they have made some wonderful signings. The signings that make us drool, right? Like even though James is past his prime. Like he's not the player he was in 2014, but even then, it's a brand, right? It's a big name coming to the club. So I think it will be a good. I think Everton will be challenging for the top 10 spot. At least if they don't qualify for a Europa, it is not. It's a failure for me. Last season,
Right.
yeah. It was okay, okay. Nothing. I don't find them too much interesting. But the rise of Calvert-Lewin and the impressive performance of Richarlison are wants to be noted, right?
Most definitely. So I think that is where we should start because if you look at Everton's front line, they're actually doing quite well, especially the two names you mentioned. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, after all, coming through the Everton Academy, has done particularly well given that Ancelotti is not the sort of coach who normally chooses to go for your traditional target man, so as to say. So there were quite a few critics who would have suggested that Calvert-Lewin would end up playing a more subsidiary role. But that has not been the case. If you look at the appearances that Calvert-Lewin has made, it has been fairly even. And he's also managed to contribute not just through his goals, which have been doubtless impressive. After all, he's hardly, I believe he's only 23 years of age. So lots of big things to come from him as well as from Richarlison, both of whom have struck up a good partnership. And now with James Rodriguez joining them, it's like you said, Jitin, he's most definitely not in his prime. He hasn't got a lot of game time either. So probably not the best position. Maybe not the best player Everton would have liked to build their team around. But
Yep.
it's like they say, form is temporary, class is permanent.
Yep.
After all, Hammers has done wonders with his with that left foot of his, and predicting that he might not prosper at Everton, especially under a manager who he has built quite a reputation with under Carlo Ancelotti. Just case in fact for our interesting fact for our listeners, Carlo Ancelotti only managed James Rodriguez for one season. That was in the 2014-15 season. Obviously, Ancelotti didn't win any trophy that year, and that was probably the reason why Real Madrid chose not to continue with him after that. But at the same time, James Rodriguez was one player who actually prospered really well. In fact, just in the league alone, he made a total of 13 goals and he contributed another 13 assists, which, to be frank, is quite incredible
Yep.
given that you can imagine coming into a side filled with hardcore players like hardcore attackers like Benzema, Ronaldo, Bale,
Ronaldo.
and of course, and then to contribute 13 goals and 13 assists, it's very impressive. Wouldn't you say that, Jitin?
Yep. Very impressive. Like I really like he's a lot, but yeah, the thing is like something I don't know where it went wrong for him. Even Bayern decided against like signing him permanently. He had to sit in the bench for a long time. But by the way, Mulot, when was the last time a World Cup Golden Boot winner ended up in Goodison Park? I don't recall.
I don't think it will be very easy for us to recollect that because it's a very difficult call to make. I mean, can you imagine that sort of player coming to? Okay, no, again, no insult to the Everton fans, of course, but then again, this is not the sort of team you would expect Golden Boot winners or Golden Ball winners to come in, especially when they are on the younger side of their 30s. If he
Yes,
was
yes.
an older candidate, maybe. But then again, that's also a sign that it's like you said earlier, Jason, there is a strong mid-table emerging in the Premier League these days.
Yes, yes.
And there are a lot of clubs who are vying for not just the top six position, which is more or less the same. There are rotations now and then. But at the same time, that Europa League is also very tightly contested these days. You have your Wolverhampton Wanderers, you have not just the Wolves, you have Sheffield United, you have your Leicester City, so many good clubs. And unfortunately, my one of my favorite teams in the Premier League is Arsenal, of course, who have been relegated to that position from Champions League position. But yeah, you never know; things could change. And
Yep.
again, Carlo Ancelotti, brilliant, brilliant coach. Absolutely no question about his achievements. And they again, looking at the Everton squad, a very solid set of players that they have already. And then when you add names, so obviously now that we've discussed Hammers, there are also two other midfielders. Another 29-year-old in Allen, the Brazilian from Napoli, And Alan was actually another player. I don't know if you might recall, Jitin, but Alan was actually linked with Liverpool 2 years back, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I remember. Even though the rumors didn't go strong, but he's one player I feel was underrated. Actually, the past two Champions League seasons, he have faced Napoli multiple times, and
Right.
has been the player who has been causing headaches for Liverpool. I even recall the games. Like he's really good as a midfielder. He's really good, and I envy the fact that he joined Everton, but it's a good side for the trophies actually.
Definitely, and not to mention the fact that Alan, it's like you said, he's the sort of player who plays under the radar. Like he had obviously stuck up that great partnership under Maurizio Sarri with Jorginho, of course, who
Yeah.
moved on to Chelsea later. But Alan is another one of those players who every manager wishes to have on account of his work rate and his defensive contributions. So when you look at when you form a squad, you obviously want that sort of player shielding your defensive line. So another great signing and another player who we should mention, who as we speak has only just put his name to the contract, is Abdoulaye Doucouré, the Frenchman who has signed from Watford FC. The relegated Watford club unfortunately could not hold on to one of their prized midfielders. Doucouré again another goal scoring midfielder who is a bit more of a physical player. So overall, when you look at it, Jitin, it's much more of a balance that he struck in midfield, Ancelotti, isn't it? You have
Yeah.
James who supplies the flair.
Yeah.
You have Allen who again offers much more of a defensive strength. And then you throw in Doucouré who can get you goals, who can offer the physicality. Is it wrong to say that these three might maybe all start together for Everton in the
Uh, but
coming years?
But the thing is, actually, it might take some time to form that partnership, right? Like, if you install the three new signings in the midfield, it might find it difficult, right? That's what
Definitely.
think. Yeah, like it will be difficult to find the balance. If I'm not wrong, like I think Ancelotti had tried to induct them slowly, steadily, and like actually, these three players should start together. If I think
Mhm.
that's what the purpose is. Like as you said, it's a perfect balance. It's the
Right.
most perfect balance you could ask for. But even then, like the integration to the team, it might take some time. That's what I not
Right.
much, but I think Ancelotti will try to make it as fast as he can. But even then, it might take some time.
Agreed. So obviously, again, with new signings coming in, Ancelotti will also look to his old guns to perform.
Yep.
And again, now let me ask you, what is your prediction for Everton in the coming season, in the 2020-2021 season? Where do you see them finishing in the Premier League this
To be honest, I see them finishing in ninth, but anything
year?
less
Okay.
will be a failure for them. But I see them finishing ninth only.
Wow. Wow. So it seems that well, no offense, but Liverpool fan doesn't want to see big things coming from the other side of Merseyside. But I'm going to beat you there, Jitin. Again, sorry to disagree, but I do feel that we are underrating the ability of Carlo Ancelotti when it comes to the Premier League. This is a man who's, after all, seen and done it all. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Everton are going to finish somewhere between sixth or seventh.
Oh, that's
What do you think?
yeah. That's we can't write them off, right? Actually, and Ancelotti in the end, it's Ancelotti. We can't write him off. He can do wonders. I don't want to disagree with you. Like that's my prediction on ninth, but yeah, sixth to seventh is also a possibility. You can't say it's a far possibility, but I think it's achievable with the talent pool they possess at the moment. It's really achievable.
Most definitely. Then before we take off, there's another name. There's obviously Niels and Kunku, who has signed from Marseille. So that's another. Well, let's not say he's the most swashbuckling kind of player, but he is another good defensive contributor because he's obviously a left back, and he will probably be looking to play as probably a backup to Lucas Digne. I know that Digne is one of your favorite players, Jitin. But do you think it will be a more attacking role that Ancelotti might push him in, or what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think Dine will continue in the left back spot, and then Kunku will be starting in the bench, and he might get some league games or cup games. I'm not the League Cup games or the cup games in the beginning. I don't think he will displace Dine anytime soon, but let's see. Dine is like of Barcelona quality, right? Like he was a Barcelona player, and he has that quality that Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison can utilize. His crosses are like it's just
Right.
they are too good, right? Right, Mulak? What do you say?
I agree totally with you, Jitin. So that left side actually looks pretty solid, even with Theo Walcott rumored to be on the move after all his contract comes to an expiration at the end of the season. But Everton look to be a solid signing. I mean, a solid set of players. They have there's of course the controversial Moise Kean on their bench as well. A very
I
good set
forgot
of
about him, right?
youngsters.
I
Oh yes.
forgot about
So
him.
unfortunately for unfortunately or fortunately, you never know because it was only his first season last year. But things weren't so bright for Kane after. Again, this was during that transition period after Marco Silva was sacked. I should mention, from my point of view, Marco Silva was actually quietly and it was looking quite ineffective. But to me, Marco Silva was actually doing a decent job. I'm not going to say he was doing a good job, but he was picking the right players. He was employing the right tactics. But then it was a mix of fixtures and a bit of bad luck due to injuries and everything. And I think that's the reason why Silva couldn't do well. And then
Yeah.
obviously they had the transition happen, and then Kane got caught up in between that coming in during the January transfer window. But then again, he's only 20 years old. So when you have Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, obviously they'll take up most of the league games. But again, maybe Keane can get a chance in the cup games.
Yeah.
So what is your prediction? Do you think Keane will be a success at Everton, Jitin, or maybe find a place somewhere else?
But I don't know where he will go. I still don't understand why Juventus didn't install a buyback clause in his contract. So I don't. I think Juventus completely gave up on him. So I don't. I think he might be good. Like I think Ancelotti can make him better, but I don't think I don't see him breaking into the first starting lineup anytime soon. Yeah, he has to displace Richarlison or Calvert-Lewin, right? At this moment, it is kind of impossible for me. So he will, as you said, will get some off the bench appearances and the League Cup or FA Cup games. That's what I think.
Agreed, agreed. So again, Keane's decision, in fact, was not exactly supported by most. Like even his own father, it seems, had made out had commented that his move to Everton was a mistake. It seems
Yeah.
that he was in fact also linked with Manchester United at a point,
Yes. Yes.
and in the end, he ended up moving to. So that
Yeah.
was, I think, probably some time back. But then he ended up in the end moving to the Merseyside club. So again, let's see what happens with Moyes and with Everton Football Club.
Yep.
So yeah, that's it, viewers. That's about Everton and Newcastle United football clubs, and here's to wishing them all the very best in the coming 2020-2021 season.
And so that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Thanks a lot to the listeners for tuning in. Thanks again to Jitin Varghese, whose contributions have been very enlightening. And of course, hope we can join again, Jitin, and hope that the listeners, all of you, will be able to tune in for more future editions of Multiply Football. Have a great day. Bye bye.